Oh, cool.
All right, guys, we're here with Jay Ripley. So tell us a little about yourself.
Um, I'm 32. I'm a tattoo artist from Virginia. Uh, I first started working out when I was like 20, and I just needed like a goal. And eventually, somebody told me about obstacle course racing. And then in 2011, I did my first Tough Mudder, and I did two more, but I kind of like retired from it. And then I started to get into powerlifting, and I started tracking like squat, bench, and deadlift, and that was okay for a little while, but I got kind of tired of it too. And then I thought that that would be the first thing that I ever did. I thought I would eventually try a meet, but then I found out about arm lifting, and that just popped up, and I like this better. Like it was small enough to be like really inviting, but
Mhm.
just big enough to have meets that were fairly close and like pretty easy to access. And but I was gonna say I got into arm lifting uh, after trying to just work on my grip because at our gym we couldn't have chalk upstairs, and so deadlifts just got so heavy that like you just have to train some grip thing. And
Okay. Yeah.
I first started out doing I looked up the video. I think it's with Ed Cohen and Mark Bell, and they just put some weight on a bar and just kind of hold it in a rack. And so I did that for a while, and then I was like, I need some other grip exercises, and I found out about like the rolling thunder and everything, and I'm like, oh, I could do this. That's fun.
Nice. And when was that?
Uh, mm, I think I first started training grip specifically in like really late 2018. Yeah, I got my
Okay.
first pair of grippers, I think like November of 2018. And then I did my first competition on St. Patrick's Day of 2019. Yeah.
Awesome. So what motivates you to compete?
Uh, to compete, I kind of just like meeting other people and like other people doing the same thing and like learning from them, like what I could do differently. And especially now, something that motivates me to compete is to just bring more interest to like arm lifting to lighter weight classes,
Hmm.
um, especially like with climbers. But it's hard to get
Yeah.
anybody to try anything sometimes if it just looks intimidating to them. And so if you have like an axle bar with like two plates on either side, that can get kind of intimidating. Like just a regular bar would get kind of intimidating to some climbers, but
Hmm.
like they can do it. They're just kind of like scared to do it. And I think with some climbers, actually, their hands are going to be able to pick up a heavier axle bar than they could deadlift.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I think climbers would also benefit from just overall strength training. So I think they could just easily work in grip lifts into their regular strength training, and it would make a lot of difference for their climbing.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely 100% true. We when we first started, we got a lot of obstacle course racers and climbers interested in doing our contest. That's the primary participants of our first grip contest were obstacle course racers.
Did what races were they frequently competing in?
They did the Ninja Warrior style races. We had
Oh,
a
okay.
Ninja Warrior gym in Portland. A lot of those guys wanted to get into more grip stuff just because of the obstacles that they deal with in their swings and in their transitions. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of they grab a lot of weird stuff with their hands for transitions, and I mean, obviously, like vertical pole or whatever. It's very similar to like you could train that by training hilts or whatever. It's very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I got a chance to do a Ninja Warrior course at the Olympia because it was like
Okay.
just like a block away from the arm lifting booth. And my big thing is pull-ups. And if my big thing is pull-ups and grip, then like it just I don't know. It's like I was training for Ninja Warrior without
Yeah.
training for Ninja Warrior. I
Yeah.
still didn't
Exactly.
do great on the balance obstacles, but uh, everything else except for that was pretty easy.
Yeah, they put some pretty tricky balance obstacles in those courses.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just the
Yeah.
very first one. It was like walking on a piece of PVC pipe that was only like 3 or 4 inches wide.
Oh
And you
yeah,
wouldn't
trying
think
to
that
walk
that's
it
really
across the
hard, but
floor or
that's
whatever.
super hard.
Yeah, I watch those guys do that, and they can easily walk on a pipe across the floor, and you're like, what? How is that possible? It's
Yeah.
crazy. You get on it, and it's extremely difficult.
And then there's like kids that
Yeah,
are
it's
just
cool
like
body control.
running over stuff, like
Yeah,
I don't know. It's hard to explain like how somebody with an even lighter body weight can just kind of fly around. Yeah.
but yeah, it seems like the climbers in the lightweight division so far have been doing pretty dominating at grip.
Yeah. Have you ever
We've
heard of
seen the results.
have you heard of Yves Gravel up in
Hmm.
Canada? Yeah.
Yep.
I I haven't seen him compete. I haven't been competing at the same time he's
I
been
still think he's
competing.
the lightest person to lift the inch, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay, I wouldn't like that doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I knew that he lifted it. I didn't know he was the lightest one.
I
But
think so. I think he
yeah,
was sub 150. I think
crazy.
he's like in the 143-pound range, somewhere in there, 140 some pounds when he lifted it. Yeah,
Insane, man.
that's
It's crazy what he could do.
yeah.
But I've seen some video of Adam Ondra. He's like a world famous climber right now. Some
Hmm.
might say like the best climber, maybe not the strongest, but like a lot will say the best.
Hmm.
And this big YouTube influencer guy went and did some like hub training with him. And Adam Ondra, I think like his training weight is somewhere like 175-ish pounds.
Hmm.
But he like easily did like over 75 pounds on the hub. Just like, oh, this little thing. And then he just broke
Yeah.
the record on it. But it wasn't in a meet. So, but that'd
Yeah, I
be
could believe
pretty cool to
that.
see Adam Ondra on the same list.
Yeah, I could totally believe that with the best climbers in the world being able to have something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Because we've
Yeah.
had some climbers over here do 45-pound plates like they're nothing. They are confused at why it's difficult. Essentially look
Yeah.
at it with each hand and be like, well, why is this hard for you? What are you talking about? This is easy to do.
Yeah.
No problem. So yeah,
Um,
their finger strength is pretty incredible.
yeah.
But
There's
like you
also a
said, grip
guy.
sport helps with the, it help get their thumbs up a little bit and help get their wrists up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
When I go
absolutely.
climbing, I do notice like uh pinch is something that I can do that the other climbers can't on
Hmm.
something. There's a lot of times where you're like reaching for a hold and it's like this. Like some people might just try to, just go on one
Crimp
side.
grip it. Yep.
But if you can get your thumb on there too and just do like extra work, it makes it even stronger. And like when I come home from the climbing gym, I often find that I'm sore in the same way that I would be sore if I was to do like a ton of Saxon bar work.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
I was gonna say there's also a climber, I think his name is Emil Abramson, and I haven't seen anybody do their own body weight on an RGT, and he's out here doing like multiple one arm pull ups from an RGT. It's insane
That's
like what
nuts.
some people can do. But yeah, a lot of climbers, what they'll do is they'll find a route that they want to be able to climb, and then their training uh, aims just at that climb. So like if it requires like a lot of slopers, they'll train their hands to like, you know, it'll be a lot of wrist, but they're pushing down like that. And
Yeah.
if they have to do crimp, they'll train a ton of crimp like that. Um, but yeah, if they set their mind to it and they specifically will train towards like an RGT or Rolling Thunder, I think they do amazing.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
I wish
Um,
that I had been climbing for like 10 years now. I guess they've already had that like extra training already done. Kind of like I had extra training already done for the Ninja Warrior thing without knowing.
yeah, exactly. I think Ben Kazi beat guys 10 kilos and 20 kilos above him at Super Series or whatever. It was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's incredible what some climbers are going to be able to show us in grip. Tanner Merkel is a climber. Some of the top
Oh
guys.
yeah.
He's three-time King Kong champ, and he was a climber prior to getting into grip. So obviously the foundation, is stellar for getting into arm lifting or grip sport for sure. So,
Yeah.
what do you consider your greatest athletic achievement?
Uh, I think I'm probably the most proud of. I did a dead hang from two hubs, and I mean I had to like have a bar attached. Like, what am I trying to say? I had a threaded rod that they were both
Mhm.
attached to, So that way I could kind of like chest crush it in a little bit.
Hmm.
'Cause each hand could kind of do like 70 pounds, but you just need a little bit of extra like oomph to try to get in there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I set my sights on that like early 2022. And then I think it took me all the way till like July 18th to get it. And it was a lot of like looking back at the video, it was such a short hold that it's kind of like, nah, that didn't seem that wasn't that hard. But like it was a lot of not trial and error, just a lot of errors. Like putting a lot of weight onto it. And I could kind of float my legs, just like have them up in the air for just a quick second. And if any of that weight pulled one hand off, it would immediately pull the other hand off because that one's
Yeah.
not going to take over
Oh
100
yeah, absolutely.
pounds. So there's a lot of videos of me just blasting off of it, and it sounds like a
Uh,
gunshot, and I fell on my ass a few times. But like when I finally got it, it might not. It's a very short hold in the video, but when you feel it, it feels like you're up there for like ages, and
yeah.
it felt really great. And that's probably like my greatest achievement. I also deadlifted 500 pounds one time, and I squatted 400 pounds twice. Those are up there, but
Was that at your
that was
current
like a
body weight?
different, huh?
Was that at your current body weight?
No, it wasn't. That's what I was gonna say. That was a different J. That was
Okay.
like 185-pound J, and that was like 30 pounds ago.
Yeah.
I my numbers used to be like okay, as far as like grip numbers, and then I lost. I went down like 2 weight classes, and suddenly like if I could keep that weight, the numbers were much more impressive.
Yeah, I
But I
can't
was
think
losing
of
weight
too many
anyway.
dudes though that have done that dead hang. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Like,
I haven't seen
or
anybody
people
do
that
it.
are capable of it. I mean, yeah, there can't be too many.
Yeah, I was trying to be very quiet about it when I was training for it because I
Yeah.
think there's like a few guys that could probably do it, but I was like, I just want to be the first one. They can do
Yeah.
it afterward. I don't care, but like as long as I was the first one to do it.
Yeah, I can't think of
Maybe
too many. I think maybe Tim could do it. Maybe
Tim
Will
who?
Reed could do it. Tim Livingston and maybe William Reed. They might be up
Oh
there
yeah,
and the guys that might be able to do it because Tim is crazy on the hub. I mean, as
yeah.
you know, Tim Livingston's pretty crazy on the hub, but he's a little heavier, so
I
that'd be a
think
little
that
tough.
I don't know how much does he weigh. I don't even.
I
He
think
was
he's
one
in
of the guys
the
where I was like, I don't
buck
want him to hear
60
about
range. Yeah. Yeah, I think
it.
he's in the buck 60 range, somewhere in there, maybe.
I
But
think
yeah.
another guy that could definitely do it is Jerome Bloom.
Oh
Shout out,
yeah.
yeah, shout outs
Yep.
to Jerome Bloom.
Yes, he
But like,
absolutely
I
could
don't know if
probably do
his
it. Yes.
stuff is very seasoned and rusty, but like
Yeah.
he can do like a crazy weight on just an anvil stub.
Yeah.
And I thought he was probably around 160 or something. I think one time he posted about his body weight. He's like, oh, this is the heaviest I've been. And it was like 150 something. I was like, damn, like he could
Yeah.
definitely do it too.
Yeah, he has some monster finger strength. Like, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
He when it comes to like all around grip, like hand size, consider everything. Like, man, his fingers, his hands, one of the strongest out there.
Yeah. And he's getting
Yeah.
into arm wrestling too. I bet he'd
Oh,
probably be really good at
wow.
that.
Yeah, he probably will. He's definitely got a hell of a foundation.
Yeah.
So, what is your greatest blunder or injury? Kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Oh, my biggest injury was definitely when I tore my hamstring. That was in December of 2019.
Hmm.
Um, it was weird because like I always considered arm lifting to be like just the safest thing you could do, but it
Yeah.
was that arrogance and carelessness that caused me to tear it because it was cold and I didn't warm up like I was for like a regular deadlift because my regular deadlift the weight of it is just like so much heavier than
Yeah.
what my axle bar number is going to be that I just wasn't. I was like, oh, it's fine, but I didn't do reps in the warm ups. I only warmed up on rising bar. And so I was just doing singles and it was cold that day and just 295 just caused one to just go. And that was like heartbreaking. I've never had an injury that bad.
Yikes.
I didn't know
I've
how
done that
fast
several
you
times on
come
my
back from it.
axle, and I live in a fairly cold area, so I'm like, whoa, I better warm up a little more.
Yeah, especially like if you're in a garage that's like cold, you gotta
Yep.
like I gotta pay attention to that now. Plus like you get older and it's harder to warm up and um I also train with some people in garages, and
Mm.
I'm much smaller than them, and they'll get hot much quicker than me.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
like it is one downside of being lighter is like
yeah.
you gotta just try harder to stay warm or just do more and like lift more. But probably that hamstring tear was one of the worst ones. I got tendonitis probably like in the same year, probably like right before that. And I was feeling really bummed about myself because like I had tendonitis in the back of this hand. I had a hamstring that was tore, and it's like I just can't win.
You're all beat up, man.
But it was also like the fear of tearing it further was
Mm.
what like really kind of like stuck with me in 2020. I'm getting over that now. I've pulled some like what I consider pretty heavy deadlifts recently.
Yeah.
That's starting to like make me feel better about that.
Yeah, I saw you pulling some banded deadlifts. You just posted that. Those were pretty darn stout. So yeah,
Yes,
getting there,
I love
man.
bands. It's so cool to like actively like feel the heavy weight at the top, and you
Yeah.
get to thinking like, oh, this whole rep is going to be this heavy weight, and like as long as you keep that in your mind and just like when you're squatting, if you could tell yourself that the weight at the bottom of the squat is the same as the weight at the top, you feel so much more successful by the end of it, and I don't know. Bands are my thing in 2023. I'm gonna really get good at jumping and it be really explosive. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Has that been working pretty good for you?
Yeah, I really like the bands. Yeah, last week, it's hard to like I work better with percentages,
Hmm.
uh basing stuff off of like a projected 1 rep max, but it's kind of hard with the bands because like you never know exactly how much weight they're trying to add onto it.
Yeah.
Uh so I try to like subtract half of whatever the bands are adding, and then put the bands over top of that. So hopefully, like the second half, or I should say the harder half of a rep should be going over whatever the percentage is called for, and everything under that should be significantly less than whatever the percentage is called for. But anyway, sorry, I ramble. Uh, but just last week to this week, I added 20 pounds to my 2 rep max on the banded deficit deadlifts. And like it felt exactly the same. And 20 pounds is a pretty good jump for deadlifts.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. So
I wish I
what's
could.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, go
Oh, I
ahead.
was gonna say I kind of wish I could incorporate the bands a little bit more into grip work, but sometimes like if you try to put bands on a Saxon par, it something about the friction of it might like force it in a weird way. So I'm trying to like explore ideas of how to use a band with grip implements and have it not be too heavy in your hands.
Well, I'm sure you could you could use the ends, the round part of the bar, and simply have the bands like you could make a space for the bands. You could do that with a couple collars and make a space. I mean, you don't have to put a ton of weight on a Saxon bar.
Yeah,
So
but since the Saxon is fixed, I don't know. I feel like
yeah, it
the
might bite unless the band is awfully slick in some way, like
yeah
which would be really hard to make happen with the friction that's
yeah
going on. It'd be
I
a
don't know.
tough thing to figure out. There's probably a way.
There's probably a way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's probably a way. Some engineer listening to this might come up with an idea, hopefully.
yeah,
So all you gripsters that hear this, figure out how to band lift with your Saxon bar safely.
yeah. Oh, but
So that's the
the
challenge we're throwing out there.
yeah. One of the scary things about that is I thought about doing it with on a deficit with
Hmm.
Saxon. And I realized that if I was to let go, then the bands are like slingshotting the Saxon
Yeah,
bar into my feet. And I
yeah,
was
that's
like,
not
oh,
good.
that could be kind of iffy. But I think the way that I'd like to do it is
Just
try to
throw
put
out
a
a deficit.
band on a cable machine to a
Hmm.
carabiner, and then the carabiner to like a one-handed, or I should say the 3x4 inch Country Crush Raptor or something, and try to just get some like reps in like that. Or I try to do everything not isolation, so I probably would do like rows that way. But
Hmm.
I don't know, the weight might not be enough for my back. And so it's all about like finding what I try to find like what my like back or biceps need. And then I base like what grip implement I use based on what I can hold that way, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to use pinch blocks for rows because you're not going to get a
yeah, it's
back
not going to do
workout.
much to your back unless you're doing like 50, in which case your hands can't do that either. So
Yeah. So there goes that idea.
yeah.
So what are your big athletic goals right now? What's your current major goal?
um I want to get over 300 on the axle bar.
Hmm.
I want to get over 200 on Saxon bar. Um, there's a few like grip feats that I'd like to do, but just like with the hub one, I have to be like really quiet about it because like there might be somebody that can do it.
Yeah.
Um, I can't even like I don't want to give any hints either because they're once I do them, I think it's gonna be like I know for certain no one's done this. But I have a few things like that by the end of the year, and there's gonna be some like I want to do some like hub feats because I
Hmm.
found out that there's one good hubbable plate in the downstairs section of my gym where we can use chalk. It's not quite the same shape as like a regular hub, but I want to do a lot
Okay.
of like, feats with that, and I'm gonna start, putting 2.5 pound plates on there. And I think I tried to like put a medicine ball on the plate while I was holding it. I wanted to like roll it around.
Hmm.
It was a 6 pound medicine ball, and on a plate, that's a huge difference. And so
Yes, absolutely.
so I do want to experiment with picking up a plate and having like more weight on one side to try to like rotate your wrist and compensate into it.
Yeah, strongman archaeology used some steel shot for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. I've seen that before, I think. I
Hmm.
think Jokabug has probably made a video kind of like doing a similar thing too. It
Hmm.
sounds very familiar.
And you can also use like I don't know if you use the boating balls at all, but like if you have the big ones, like Tai Chi boating
Boating?
balls,
What are they?
like the Tai Chi boating balls, like the two balls you put in your hand and spin
Oh,
around,
like
like
the
for grip
little,
recovery.
yeah. Oh,
A lot of gripsters will use like heavier ones, like a 2 inch ball bearing.
ooh.
I use a couple 2 inch diameter ball bearings. They're just really heavy, so they
Yeah, I've
get
never heard of that.
a lot more work for your hand. You can put one of those on a plate too and roll that around the edge,
Yeah,
and that's really nice.
yeah, I could try that. Huh. Yeah, I'll look into that. That's a
Yeah,
good idea.
I think maybe FBBC, if I'm not mistaken, sells the heavy boating balls. So it's a thing that's actually like established in the grip world. These guys are like, it's a pretty regular recovery thing using the heavier boating balls.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of stuff with extensors?
I do a
'Cause
decent amount of extensor
you're working
stuff.
on grippers right now, right?
Yeah, so I do a decent amount of extensor stuff for sure as part of my recovery. I have a like a bucket full of 30 pounds of rice, um,
Oh,
and you
nice.
just put your hand in, dig, and try to dig to the bottom, just opening
So
up against the rice. The
is
further down
rice?
you are, the more resistance there is.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, I never thought about that. Is rice harder than sand? Like,
No,
is it
rice is much
more?
easier than sand.
Rice is easier.
Sand is almost impossible when you get to the bottom of the bucket. It's
Oh,
ridiculous. Yeah,
nice.
sand is good for like the what is that thing called?
The Gruppito.
Yeah, that torpedo shaped gripster thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great for that, like and doing other things where you're twisting in the sand. But as for like digging your hand down in it, it's not really. Honestly, shot's easier than sand. It's just the
yeah.
way sand gets compacted.
I've seen a video of yours popped up, and you basically made a Joe Kinney secret weapon, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, mhm.
Do you still use that often?
Yeah. I do. I use
Nice.
that occasionally. I mean, not haven't been as much this past like 10 months because I've been focused really highly on the grippers. But yeah, I mean, as part of my grip routine, I throw it in there now and then for sure.
Yeah.
I even know somebody that has a real one.
Have you ever watched that DVD that Joe Kenny made? I can't remember the name of it. Is it
Yeah, I
just Get
haven't
a
watched
Grip?
that one. Get a grip, I think.
Yeah, I think
With
that's what
Joe
it is.
Kinney. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never actually seen the whole thing. I've seen his
Oh, it's good.
clothes and I've seen like chunks of it, but I've never seen the whole thing.
I just borrowed it from Chad, and I gotta say I love it.
Yeah.
I like his I don't know, Joe Kenny was just like this like I don't know. I was going to talk to you about this, but I think like Joe Kenny was like a creature. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Like he
he
was
was a
made for
character.
grippers, or grippers were like made for him. And
Yeah.
I liked his training mentality towards the way that he did extensors was he didn't like roll up something. I mean, he made like a rolling thing, but instead of rolling it continuously up, he would just make it come off the floor, but it would be like hundreds of pounds. And I was like, oh, I want to try that. Because usually like I like to do this thing where I put a band across the bottom of a rack and I put my wrists over a barbell, and then you have like one of those broom handle kind of things that has a rope on it. And I
Like a
like to
wrist
connect
roller.
that to the band. So the more you roll it up, the heavier it gets. And then once you get to the top and you can't go anymore, you do some like solid holds. And then you go like, I go 2 loops down. I'll do 3 more holds. I'll do 2 more rotations over and do some more holds. And I'll go back up and do my wrist flexors. And that's kind of like the way that I like end my Mondays. And you get a huge pump. And I'm big on like the mentality that you have at the gym, and it's
Yeah.
fun making that the last thing. And you're walking out, seeing your pump in the mirrors and just checking yourself out. It's great.
Have you watched many of the videos from John Brookfield? One
Yes,
of his like hour-long videos is on YouTube. You can just like totally find it with all his
I think
training
I've
and
probably
whatnot.
seen that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like watching him for old school stuff because his longevity was much greater than Kinney's. Kinney was there for a second, exploded, disappeared, kind of like a Sasquatch. Nobody can really like contact him, and we don't know where he is, and like all this weird stuff.
yeah.
Um,
That's what
but
I'm saying.
yeah,
Like he's like a creature, man. We just
he's
happen
like an
to have
absolute creature.
grippers in
So
his
I tend
universe.
to, yeah, I tend to follow Brookfields. I tend to at least look at Brookfields with a little bit more like respect just because how long he continued to do the same kind of training and what it took him to. Like he is pretty ridiculous in the grip world.
Yeah,
Like, he's stout, unbelievable what he accomplished, some of the things he did.
and
You
grippers
know.
for Joe Kenny, like I was training for the obstacle course races,
Hmm.
and then that kind of led me into powerlifting, and that kind of transitioned me into grip. I think the other interesting thing about Joe Kenny is like he went zero to grippers, and like he went for the niche of the niche thing, and that
Yep.
that was pretty cool to me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
I
like the
did.
John Brookfield stuff a lot too. I'm trying to think
Yeah.
of. Uh,
I did the same thing. I jumped in grippers was my first foray into any sort of strength training at all.
oh, really?
Yeah.
They were your very first?
Yep. No
You start with?
powerlifting before that. No strongman before that. I went right into grippers and I did them starting in high school and played with them my entire like college career when I was going from campus to here to there and whatever. I had grippers in my backpack and played with them. I couldn't close. I could barely close a trainer when I started. I couldn't close the one. The first gripper I got was a single stamp number one, and I
Oh, I
couldn't
was going to
close
ask
it.
if you started with Captain's of Crush or
Yeah,
if
I
you
did.
made
I had
like
a
the
single
little
stamp
Walmart
number one
ones
and
or
couldn't
something.
close it. That was in '99, I think. So that was a long time ago. Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
And then I got a trainer, I think, in 2002, and I could close that. And within like a couple weeks of playing with that one, I was able to close the one. And then I got more grippers after that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Were you using those grippers back before there was like half intervals then?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Nice.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have been around and like conscious of it when it happened. Because I think that that was like probably revolutionary. Like I don't know what I would do without 1.5s or like just the half.
Yeah.
I like the half the most actually.
Yeah.
Um,
We've chatted with some of the guys that have closed big grippers like Ben Edwards that trained way back in the day. Like all his training up to the three was before the half intervals. And he'd say like how tough it was to go from the two to three. He was doing
yeah.
tons, like 100 reps a day with the two, just smashing it, carrying around while he's doing patrols and just smashing on it to eventually get to the three.
Yeah.
I could see that, I could see
And
that amount of volume it would take.
Joe Kenny's mentality was that like you couldn't progress unless you had like you were working with one that was even above what you're shooting for, so that you can like experience what your hand feels like with like even more pressure in it than you're accustomed to. And especially when you think about like, have you seen those the charts that Canon Powerworks have made?
Mm-hmm.
Shout outs to Canon Powerworks. But you look at those and you look at the average ranges of like ones and twos.
Mhm.
and there's like a gap in between, and it would just be so hard to traverse that. Um, yeah, but half sizes of Captains of Crush, I think, are amazing. I really like the half. In fact, I have a filed one
Mhm.
from Canon PowerWorks, and when I got it, I actually was hanging out with a friend of mine, and we ground the other side out, and so it's like actually it's double
Yeah.
filed. And if you're
Mhm.
not careful, it'll like pinch your skin in between. But
Yep.
like just going that super
Yeah, I
super
had
deep
some
range of motion
double
is
filed
great.
grippers back in the day,
Yeah.
and some really heavily filed ones, and some lighter filed ones, and some ones where they just. Another thing that people would do back in the day is they just cut half a handle.
Oh
So
yeah.
like it would be like flat, it wouldn't even be filed, but it'd be like skinnier, so it'd close
Yeah.
further. All kinds of weird stuff like that. Yeah. I had grippers like that have come and gone. I've had so many grippers over the years, probably
Oh
over 100
really?
grippers over the years. Yeah, absolutely. I probably
I
have 60 or 70 grippers now. Another thing that
70?
probably somewhere close to there, I don't know, a ton of
Wow.
them.
Uh, I thought about filming or doing recording this with my gripper wall in the
Uh-huh.
background, but it'd be at home and the lighting wouldn't be as good. But I don't know. I think I probably have like I have like 8 by like 3 different companies. So like maybe I have like 24.
Yeah.
But I have
I
one
don't know
that's
if it's quite 70, but I'd say I have at least 50 grippers.
actually I have this one cool thing. I want to show you
Ton of
this.
them.
Just speaking about grippers, it's one by have you ever seen anything like this by JD Fitness?
Yeah.
I love this thing because the
Is it
handles
pretty
are
cool?
also, huh?
Is it cool? I've never
Oh
actually
yeah.
played with one.
It's adjustable, but the thing that I like is that it's not one hinge point. So the handles are actually like more parallel as you close
Hmm.
it together.
Oh, okay. I
And
see.
yeah, you can adjust the pressure of it and like the distance that you have to close it. So like the farthest distance would be like that, which I think is 85 millimeters.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love this thing. The only thing I don't like is that it looks like a gun, and so you can't, you don't want to carry it around the gym or
Yeah.
something. Especially, in today's world, gotta don't want to be too careful, or you do want to be too
Yeah.
careful.
You want to be careful.
Yeah.
Exactly. Another thing that Canon did that I thought was pretty awesome. Another shout out to Canon is those standard grippers. Those are
Yeah.
badass. They're
Oh, I love the
just
standard.
the right range to fill to get like the micro gaps that there are, like between like the 2.5 and the 3, for instance, which is what I'm working towards. Like I have a 129 2.5, and you'll see in the next like month or 2 or 3, I don't know how long, I'll start working with a 132 Canon standard gripper, and then I'll start working with a 135 before I chase down that 138. I've closed the number 3 on 2 occasions, but I'm not there with the Mash Monster set yet.
Oh, I gotcha.
Should happen this year. I'm hoping.
So, as a big
My
gripper
goal is by the
guy,
time I'm 40.
huh?
My goal is to do it by the time I'm 40, which is August of next year.
Oh, okay. I think
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
think
got it.
so. But I'm very slow on my progress now. Like I
Are
said,
you?
I couldn't close a 1 when I started. So it's not like I had this like, tendon strength that a lot of guys that are good at grip, like they pick up, they're like, oh yeah, I picked up a number 1 and smashed it. Tried a number 2 and smashed it the first time. You're like, whatever. That's
Yeah.
crazy. No, I wasn't anything like that. I trained slowly through the all the damn numbers.
So I want to ask you some questions about
Sure, yeah, what's
grippers.
up?
Uh, in your opinion, does the dog leg make a difference?
On the grippers?
Yeah.
Well, my specialty of study is psychology. So
Okay. I see where
yes,
this is going.
it does. It makes a big psychological difference because all of the guys that have closed giant grippers tell you it makes a difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like if you watch Paul Knight's how to set a gripper video, he'll tell you this is the dog leg and you're supposed to do this. And a lot of guys learned from that video. So a lot of guys have that pretty ingrained in their head. But
Yeah.
Jed Johnson, I think, questions it in his own how to set gripper videos. He goes, well, this is the dog leg, and most people tell you need this one in the back of your hand. He goes, I don't know if it makes a difference. I'm pretty sure he says that at least once or twice because I think the verdict is still out there. Nobody knows if it really makes a big
Yeah, I
difference.
really love that about grippers. Is like it's still like a mystery. It's still like a hot button debated thing. But one thing that like I
But
don't
they
want
did
to
make
believe in it.
left-handed grippers, then the thing does spin the other way, the
Oh yeah,
left-handed grippers,
left-handed
and
is
people use those. So,
yeah,
you know, that makes you think, well, it probably does make a difference.
yeah. And I'm kind of the thinking that it doesn't make a big difference, but then again, GHP has different knurling on the one that they want in your palm.
Yeah.
There's like a different stripe there. So like, what do the companies that make grippers think? They obviously think one way or the other.
Yeah, they
Uh,
think that it makes a difference, and I would think that the left-handed gripper is just the same thing for the left side, so it would make sense that it does make a difference.
oh yeah,
I just don't
left-handed
know how
grippers
much
are
of it.
good.
Thing is, I've never really switched that. I'm so conscious of it. I haven't really done any gripper closes with the dog leg in the other position, so I have no idea.
You could have a dog opposite dog leg PR
Yeah,
that you can start
exactly.
setting now.
Then maybe we
Uh,
could figure it out.
Another question I wanted to ask about grippers uh, is, in your opinion, do you think that gripper training carries over to like axle or like rolling thunder? Because a
Nope,
lot of
not at
people
all.
say like they don't carry over at all.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
exactly how I feel.
you
Well,
don't
I
think they?
can't say not at all, okay? Because there are some freaks on grippers like Yvonne Shook.
That's
Okay,
yeah, that's exactly what I was
he's
gonna
a
say.
freak, no question. And he went into arm lifting with very minimal training in the other implements, very minimal, and did pretty darn well. And he got an inch dumbbell up to about his knee, I believe, the first time he went to go after an inch dumbbell. There's a video on his channel of him playing with an inch. And that was, off of just his gripper strength. At that time, he was an only gripper athlete when it came to grippers. He did, of course, his powerlifting he always has for his training and whatever, and
Oh,
his
okay.
pull-ups and whatever. So he was definitely doing other body work training. But as for grip, I think it was just mainly the grippers. And yeah, he was able to get an inch dumbbell off the ground. So I think that there's carryover if you're at that level. Like if you're at a crazy elite level. But if you're not at an insanely elite level with the grippers and you're just playing around with like between the 1 and the 2.5, I don't think it's doing a whole lot for everything else.
Yeah, the
I mean, it may a little, but
I think it
not
actually
like
carries
for the.
over. I think it carries over more than some people think.
Mhm.
I don't want to
Well, I
like,
mean, you're building your overall hand strength
yeah.
for sure.
You're
But
building
the
your overall hand strength, and like basically everything that goes into closing your hand is also going to go into like,
well, it's
flexing
not
your wrist.
closing your hand; it's doing this.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
like,
not quite. So it is working, but I mean, it's still working a lot of stuff.
yeah. But if you were to fire just all of your flexors, your hand kind of goes like it kind of turns in.
Yeah,
So you actually need a lot of extensors to like hold your wrist in a good position while it closes. I think what grippers lack is just like thumb work. And if you could like, I think it'd be fun to just take somebody that's like never done grip training before on like an axle bar and things like that, and have them just do grippers, and then like either like a telegraph key thing or a pinch converter to put on the end of
yeah,
a
and some wrist work because I've noticed
yeah.
some guys that are really, really elite at grippers and primarily only grippers. Um, they'll
You
use
could,
wrist they'll use wrist wraps with their really, really heavy grippers.
oh, that's interesting.
I've
Yeah.
seen that
But you could
from
also
a couple of
train
smaller
like
guys.
if you get a really light gripper, you can like train to close it with your wrist in a bent position, and it's like so much
Yeah,
harder
that's
there.
tough.
And I think that that would help with the axle bar, because when if you're trying to pick up an axle bar, it's a lot of like trying to wrist into it as much as you can, but it's also closing your fingers and thumb while bending your wrist too.
Mhm.
So I've always wondered if maybe you could train with a bent wrist position, and maybe that with a gripper would carry over. But I don't know. It's like an experiment that I don't want to run on myself. I
Yeah,
want to take
exactly.
somebody
I
that's
think all of the stuff
never
like is
done
going to
it.
carry over to a degree, but as some of the top athletes have said, working with the implements you're actually going to lift on is, of course, going to be the best thing you can do.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think everything that builds overall hand strength is going to carry over a little bit for
yeah.
sure.
I think
And
grippers
so,
are very interesting, and I like it's fun talking to you because I know that you've been working on grippers a lot.
yeah, absolutely. It was my entrance into grip, and then I started doing other grip stuff. Got my hands a lot stronger, which helped with the grippers. And now that I'm close enough, I'm really focused on just getting that MM0 checked off so I can go back to doing the fun stuff that I want to do in grip.
Oh
Because
yeah.
honestly, I don't want to stick with grippers. After I get the MM0, I'm gonna put them away for a long time and
Huh.
do lots of other fun stuff that I'm missing out on.
Nice.
Yeah,
Um,
because I enjoy all the other stuff a lot more than the grippers. Grippers are cool, and not very many dudes have closed the number 3. You know, that's a pretty stout thing to accomplish. So I'm looking forward to getting that checked off. But after that, I really want to get back into doing the arm lifting style lifts
hmm.
a lot
Have
more. I'd
you?
really like to get my axle above 150 kilos soon.
Oh,
That'd
okay.
be nice.
Have you ever done silver bullet in a competition?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that versus like regular gripper training? Like, does it carry over, or do you think that you have to do that specifically too?
I think it definitely carries over because you're going to be using a gripper heavier than what you can close. And
Yeah.
as you mentioned earlier, playing around with grippers that are heavier than what you can close helps your hand feel that, get used to that, and helps your mind, adjust to it. So I do think it helps for sure. If you can set a gripper that's, a notch above what you can close, then yeah, you're going to be able to hold the goal gripper in your hand a lot better.
Yeah. Nice.
So I do think that makes a big difference for sure.
Cool.
So, let's see. Next question. What are some lifestyle habits that you subscribe to that you think would benefit the average person trying to get healthy or fit?
Oh, that's a great question. Like, this is gonna sound super weird, but when I'm training, I try to like visualize myself as like a creature. Like I have this one friend that his grip is crazy. He's very strong, but he doesn't like really have like a lot of interest in competing. And the I've tried to explain to some people like, why doesn't he compete? Why doesn't he compete? I try to explain like he just exists. Like this is what he would do if competitions just didn't exist at all. He would still train this way. And like that's I started looking at that as like a creature mentality. Like,
Mhm.
animals out in the wild don't train for competition. They train for like what they're doing. That's just who they are, like instinctually. And
Yeah.
so when I'm training, I try not to think about uh oh, how will this be at a meet, or like what's the outcome of this, like, oh, is this going to help me lose weight? I try to just do what I just really enjoy doing
Mhm.
at the gym. And I believe that's what they call like being intrinsically motivated, and I think it's really important to just really love the thing that you're doing instead of like working just for a result after it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
I think it's the only way that athletes really get in the zone, as they call it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? In that psychological state where their performance is, enhanced.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's that and music. Like music, I think some people they talk about it making a difference and they kind of joke about it making a difference, but I think the difference is like just extreme. Like it's I don't know how to put it. It's just like training on an axle or not, it's just like, if you don't
Mhm.
have good music to listen to, if that doesn't get you in the zone, then like training is just not going to be fun for you, and you're just not going to enjoy it, and you're going to leave feeling bummed or exhausted. I like leaving the gym feeling like I'm a creature now.
Yeah.
I've achieved it. I've become a creature. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's tougher to lift in silence, and
Yeah.
it's interesting the people that can lift really, really well in silence, and there's some of them out there.
Kind
It's
of
impressive.
psychopaths. but um but yeah, I think I kind of joked around with the whole thing about imagining yourself as a creature. And I would joke around with it thinking about all those like YouTube influencers because they all have like a mascot. There's like
Mhm.
Tiger Fitness, and then there's like 8 Man Strong. Trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head.
Maybe couch potato strong.
Yeah, yeah, like that's a creature, right? But like, and I kind of like, oh, everybody has like a
But yeah,
creature.
like the
I didn't want
Wolf
to
of
be like,
Kurdistan is another one.
yeah, but I don't even want to be one real creature. I kind of want to imagine a creature that like just
Mhm.
doesn't exist. And that's what I've been doing. And I've been imagining that I'm like a chimp, but with like the head of a tiger, and then like the hands of a tiger, like horns. I don't know. It just makes me feel good thinking that, you're just like a beast in the gym,
Yeah.
I have some friends that, they have like really long arms and big torsos, and they like to picture themselves as like the Beast Titan from Attack on Titan. I don't know if you've seen that, but they're big deadlifters because they have like the really good reach.
Yeah.
And if that's what they want to imagine themselves as, I think it's great.
Well, definitely. I think it's been a part of sports for, as long as sports have been around. I mean,
Yeah,
many times athletes have come out dressed in, beast type costumes to whatever they're doing,
exactly.
like going to the ring or coming out to the field or whatever. I mean, we have the mascots in sports that are oftentimes beasts or mythical creatures. I mean, yeah, pretty traditional, normal thing, I think.
And
To
I
imagine
don't like to
yourself
be
even more powerful than what a human could be in the gym, of course.
right. And maybe that's what it takes because you were talking about psychology.
Mhm.
Uh, they used to call the inch dumbbell like the unliftable dumbbell. And as soon as one person could do it, I think that it kind of triggers something in people's heads where they're like, oh, it's possible. So they start training in a way where they're not training thinking like, oh, I'll never be able to do that thing. That's just impossible. I'll do the best I can. They were
Yeah.
training thinking like, I can do that someday. It is possible. And I think that whole mentality is just really major. Same thing with the four. Like people thought that the
Yep.
four was impossible.
Yeah.
Um,
It won't be long before somebody credit card sets that thing and
yeah.
gets certified on it in that manner.
I think I don't know if he's still trying to do it, but there was David Shamey.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was a week where David Shamey was doing one number four close like each day. I mean, it was like choked, but like
Yeah.
doing that once a day for a week, that's so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he got the Mash Monster 9, which nobody else has gotten. So that's
Oh,
pretty insane. Yeah, I think him, Carl Myerscough, Yvonne Shook, a couple of those guys are pretty close. You know,
nice.
it's pretty cool. Be neat to see
Yeah,
that happen. Yeah, the number four was untouchable like 10, 15 years ago in grip. I mean, hardly anybody was really messing with that thing. And see a lot more guys playing with it and smashing it is it's pretty incredible.
yeah. And then the rule change to the credit card, and I think a lot of people probably gave up hope.
Yeah,
That's
that's what inspired the Mass
okay.
Monster ladder.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why that whole thing exists because the credit card set is out of reach for some people, honestly. I mean, it's pretty damn stout.
yeah.
So you already talked about weird methods with your training. We just talked about that. So what would you change in your training if you could start over today with the knowledge you have now? What would you do different?
Uh, are you saying like
If you could
if I had
start
to
all your
start from
training over
scratch
from the
today?
very beginning with the knowledge that you have today, what would you do different in your training?
Like if I could go back in time?
Hmm.
Oh, whew. If I could go back to like when I first started getting into the gym, I I don't think I would change anything when I was in the period of doing like OCR, obstacle course racing. Um, Maybe if I had started doing some grip stuff then, it might have helped. I didn't like notice it. I didn't notice my grip failing me for anything that I needed in there. But I do wish that I started climbing a long time ago. Like if right now I could have just 5 years of climbing training experience in me, I think that would make like a huge difference. Um, it's hard to say that like I could go back in time and do that because I just my whole physiology was completely different. And maybe if you had approached me with that idea back then, I don't think I would be receptive to it, but I wish that I could have pushed myself into doing it. Um, so I wish I had started climbing earlier. Um, as far as grip training, wish I had gotten into card tearing earlier. That'd be pretty fun to be good
Yeah.
at now. But yeah, mainly the climbing, I think, because I think that would have also helped me lose weight. I would have been motivated to get down the same weight.
Yeah, absolutely. I've considered cutting weight and then getting into climbing after closing the three. I'd
Oh,
still be a
really?
heavy, yeah, I'd still be a heavy climber, but hey, whatever.
How much do you weigh?
Right now, I'm probably like 220. But as an adult, I've been as low as like 150-ish, somewhere in
Oh,
there,
okay.
145, 150. And that was back when I was in like combat sports. So like I was fighting closer to a welterweight size. And I've been as high as 256 when I was chasing a bench record in college.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people much bigger than me climb. Sorry. There's a lot of people that are much bigger than you in climb.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same. It's just you have to be like a little bit more careful of like down climbing at the end of a route. You can't, take the whole falls over and over and over again. And even as someone lighter, I don't want to take a fall. And even like landing on my feet, I don't want to take that fall over and over and over again. So I try to down climb as much as I can before I drop off a wall. And it makes a big difference. Like you don't like feel it in your knees and your legs
Yeah.
later on. But yeah, it's definitely doable. I think it's definitely really fun. Because we were talking about like being a creature and having goals. There's something about like getting to the top of a route and being able to look down and being like, that's the amount of effort that I put into there.
Yep.
I did that amount of work. Yeah, it's a great feeling. It's a really great all around exercise too. So
Yeah, I imagine it gets you kind of in tune with that primal aspect of yourself a little bit.
yeah, especially when you can like campus a route, which means like you're climbing it without feet. It's a really good
Mhm.
feeling to just, you know, go all the way up there like that and just
Yeah.
feel like an ape or something.
Yep. Absolutely. So, what's the most important piece of equipment in your home gym and why?
In my home gym, hmm, uh, that's a tough one. Like just at home. Well, okay. Yeah, I made this hangboard. If you
Mhm.
ever seen climbers, they
Yep.
they specifically train their fingers on this hangboard thing, and I didn't want to screw anything into the walls of my apartment, so I made this really like large frame standalone setup that has a hangboard mounted on it, and it's at like a 20-degree angle, and it's a nice thing to just like when you're like just walking by it, you can do some like crimp hangs. You don't even have to pick your feet up. You can just put as much weight into your fingers as you want to.
Yeah.
Um, and that thing took a while to like make. And I'd say that's probably one of the most important pieces that I have that I use more often. Aside from grippers, I mean, like aside from the adjustable gripper that I showed you, I love that
Yeah.
thing.
So, what's the most important piece of equipment at your gym?
At my gym,
Hmm.
like it's definitely the rack. It's definitely a
Yeah.
pull-up bar. um, I was just thinking about it today. I don't take for granted that the racks that we have pins that you can put on them, not just for J hooks or J cups or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
The actual just like a regular pin that just sticks out, and you can attach a band to it. My favorite thing is uneven pull-ups. A lot of people will do uneven pull-ups where like one is on the bar and then they'll have a band tied around it and they grab just like lower and lower down the band so they can like they can transition more
Hmm.
power into one arm.
Yeah.
Uh, the thing about that is you can kind of jerk it really quickly and that'll kind of shoot you up and give you a good boost. But we have those pins and I can put the pin in the rack at a certain point and then feel like, well, if it's down too far, you can start putting a lot of tricep in it. And if it's too high, it almost feels like you're doing a regular pull up. So you can find a really good sweet spot and just do uneven pull ups, and it transfers over to climbing a lot, and it's great because a lot of climbing is, your hands aren't usually even, and you have to pull up to this point and try to hold it as long as you can so that you can like then reach for
Yeah.
another hold. And so like locking off and like staying in just that position with one hand is big major uh big major training factor. So it's definitely the rack and the bands. I forgot about the bands. The bands and the rack are the two most important things.
Right on. Awesome. So, that's pretty much the last question we typically ask. So now, I asked, do you have any questions for us, Couch Potato Strong, or
Yeah.
is there anything
Yeah,
else that you
I
want to
have a bunch of
share?
questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
I
go.
wrote a list down of questions that I have. Since we talked about like the imagining yourself as a creature and like training like that, do you imagine yourself as a creature? Like, are you the little couch potato mascot thing, or
I
see
don't think I've
yourself as
ever
anything
went
else?
to imagining myself as a creature when I lift, but I do try to get like in the zone. I do try to get very like focused on only the lift, not thinking about the results, like you said earlier, not thinking about what this could do in a comp, not thinking about what this does for my body, not thinking about how this fits in my program or anything like that. Just not thinking about anything. Trying not even to evaluate, like, and that's a really hard thing to do, to try to go through your workout without evaluating anything.
Hmm.
Just go in there, do the work, record the videos, wait to evaluate later, you know.
Oh,
But while you're in there, just focus on the thing you're doing. Be there and only there to do that thing only. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's more like a Zen focus. I did martial arts most of my life. Um, so a lot of that comes from the martial arts training, that you should just be doing the thing you're doing. You shouldn't be anywhere else or in any other point in time. You should just be doing it.
yeah. So you did martial arts, but the grippers were still first?
When it comes to strength training, yeah, I really didn't do any strength training in martial arts because it's,
Oh,
it's, you want to be lighter and faster. So yeah, it was grippers. And then in college, in late high school and college, I got into powerlifting, but I forgot my grippers when I was like 14 and didn't start weightlifting until I was probably like 16 or 17.
hmm. Wow,
So
you've
yeah,
done a lot of stuff then.
grippers were first. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
nice.
did started in martial arts when I was like 3 or 4. My dad learned martial arts when he was in Vietnam, or he was in Korea during the Vietnam War. He learned martial arts there and then started teaching me when I was a little kid and then got me into school.
Huh. What martial arts?
I did mostly Taekwondo, but I've done several other styles since,
Okay. Yeah, because grip definitely comes
more
into
mixed styles.
grip really comes in handy with
Grappling.
jujitsu, right?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
done some wrestling, some grappling since even since I've done grip training like later. And yeah, it makes a huge difference for sure.
Hmm. Uh,
And just being
oh,
bigger and stronger and more powerful in general makes a huge difference. Like it was neat being in martial arts and being an adult that was 150 pounds and being going back into martial arts as an adult that was 220 pounds and learning that all they say about size doesn't matter is complete fucking bullshit. Like
oh,
size makes an absolute massive difference, period. Like a high school wrestler that weighs 220 pounds is going to throw around a lot of like very good judo practitioners that are 150 pounds. It's just
yeah.
what's going to happen. Sorry. It's just that's what's going to happen. That 70,
Yeah,
80 pounds of muscle mass and power is really hard to overcome.
yeah. It's
So
weird how I would like to say that weight doesn't make a big difference in like grip training because our hands are usually approximately the same size. But yeah, there's something to it. I just
it
you're
does. I
bigger, you
mean,
can
in
even grip
certain
more.
events,
It's
it absolutely does. Like in
yeah,
the axle, it absolutely does.
yeah,
But in some things, it doesn't, like the finish ball and the hub. And those things can be contested by people with just absolute astonishing finger strength.
yeah. Um, I was gonna say, just speaking about martial arts, I actually did Aikido maybe 4 years ago or so,
Hmm.
and I couldn't quite get into it. I enjoyed it, but I'm a little bit too perfectionist, and I couldn't get the stuff down exactly. But I would like to go back and at least see the sensei again because they would always talk about having a key grip, like KI grip,
Hmm.
and like you had to like hold somebody's wrist, but if you actually like stress down on it, you could actually like wiggle your way out of their hand. But if they use key grip, they kind of like relax their hand and like almost the more they relaxed, almost like the harder it got. And I'd really like to go back and like test that guy's grip to see if like, okay, like close this gripper with key and see like if he could do it. Um, there might be something to it. I don't know.
No,
That'd
there's
be
not.
great. Yeah. Well, okay.
Just there's not.
Um,
It's pretty much that's if there was, I mean, grip athletes would have already stumbled upon that.
yeah, probably.
They'd all
Um,
be meditating in a circle, getting harnessing their key so they can close massive grippers, and they're not.
yeah,
They're not doing that.
yeah. But I
Key
mean,
like
sometimes he would hold
key
my
or
wrist and
chi or key, whatever you want to like call it. Like I've been around that and the explanation of that like all of my life. So I can tell you that if
oh
we
yeah,
were to take a really Western look at what chi or key is, It's really like body awareness and breath control. Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you go
that's
to
what I
a
was gonna
really
say. Is that's how he talked about it. Like,
yeah, if you go to a really top level like powerlifting gym, they're going to teach you to push your breath down, to brace in your abdomen, let it
yeah,
expand out. And you'll hear things in chi training where they'll say it feels like a balloon expanding within your diaphragm. They'll use more visual, more esoteric like explanations, mystical type, wordage, but it's the same thing. It's the
yeah,
same exact thing, like expanding into a belt. It's the same thing.
yeah. When I did a keto, that's basically like how he explained it. Is like
Hmm.
ki isn't so much like an energy that's like pushing and flowing. It's more about like it's almost like interchangeable with gravity. Like as long as you're like letting yourself relax and kind of not
Hmm.
fall, but just don't tense up
Yeah.
is basically so like a lot of people if you were grabbing somebody's wrist, you'd also be tensed
Just be
up.
grounded.
When you grab somebody in a keto, it's more of like,
Yeah.
you know,
You're
gravity pulling
grounded and you
together.
remain grounded.
Right.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was you've talked to so many grip competitors and they have all these like different training mentalities. Do you like make a note to try everyone's thing, or do you ever hear some and you're just like, that's just not going to work for me. I don't even want to
Yep,
try it.
absolutely. Dali Zhang, he trains grip twice a day. That doesn't work for me.
Oh, wow.
It just
Every day?
doesn't. Yep, every day.
Oof.
Every day.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he's in there like 2, 3 times a day. But
Yeah.
he trains his grip every single day. Um, there are
But
some
have you
guys out there
tried it?
that absolutely train their grip every day and they have astonishing grip, and that's awesome for them. My body doesn't react that way. It just doesn't. Like if I do heavy powerlifting and try to do like a couple days later heavy powerlifting, it doesn't work for me. I wind up needing like 3 or 4 days of recovery. I do my grip like twice a week.
Huh.
And Vinny, I don't know if you know who Vinny is. Um, he's
Uh,
done many contests. He's a lighter weight grip competitor. I think he's in the 80
Vincent
kilo class. Vincent,
Revelate?
yes.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
Yes,
about.
exactly. Vinny, yeah, Vincent. Um, yeah, he when he came to our contest, he told us he trained grip 1 day a week.
Oh, really?
Yep, he would get in there and he would just destroy like every aspect of grip. He'd do wrist, he'd do forearms, he'd do pinch, he'd do thumbs, he'd do everything. Smash it all out and then recoup for a whole week. And that worked best for him.
When did he say that? Or like when was
When
he?
that was like 2 years ago. It was at our first
Oh,
major contest, the first annual Golden Potato Championship. So that was in July of 2020. So yeah, a couple years
okay.
back, 2.5 years ago.
Because I think when he certified on the Mash Monster, they had like a little article asking him about his training.
Hmm.
And I think what he said was that he also he'd bring grippers to work
Hmm.
and he would talk about doing like 20 something like micro
I
closes.
think when he started chasing down big grippers, he changed his training a little
He
bit.
changed it. Yeah.
But when he was doing arm lifting and doing very well at arm lifting,
Just once a week.
just arm lifting, he was only doing it once a week. So,
Huh.
maybe that worked better for him with chasing down the gripper specifically, you know,
Yeah.
perhaps. But yeah, I do it twice a week. And that's one of the biggest things I think that people talk about that is wildly different for each person, for
Yeah.
sure.
Interesting. So do you have a day where you train something that's, I mean, you do stuff that's completely not grip related?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on back work and trap work and a lot of that because it has a lot to do with your grip strength. So yeah, I'm working actually with Ricardo Magni. He's got me doing a lot of upper body strength just to make sure that I don't mess up anything as I'm going for big grippers.
Yeah. But like so if you're doing like a row or something, you don't try to put fat grips on it. You don't try to make everything
Nope,
grip related. Okay.
nope.
That's interesting. I
Yeah,
have to do it where like
and I
I
do
think
recovery after my after the day after I do grippers. I usually do recovery work, which will be like the boating balls and like the rubber, like the short rubber bars that you can twist and bend and whatever.
yeah.
Those are really cool. I like to use those for my wrist in different ways. Extension work, like I'll use those soft grip rings, all kinds of stuff like that, just throughout the day after I've done grippers.
Huh.
So I guess
Yeah.
that's 4 days a week of grip, but 2 are recovery days. So yeah,
Oh, I got you. Okay. I feel like I just have to I need more volume and so I need to but I can't be at the gym forever. So all my like accessory exercises like have to have grip involved in them somehow. Uh, Otherwise, I don't have time. So
Yeah.
like if I'm doing like really heavy lockoffs, I try to do really heavy lockoffs with like an axle bar. Or if I'm
I
doing
guess when I do my
rows,
lat pulls, a lot of times I'll do them thumbless. So that might be a little bit of grip training in there. And it might just be
yeah,
naturally that I do that because I'm a gripster and it naturally just in my mind it thinks to do that. But yeah, when I do the close grip, I also do thumbless and I do thumbless uh when I do any of the lat pulls. I might do
yeah.
that with rows too, now that I think of it. Just trying to tax the fingers a little bit more, probably.
So just a little bit, but not
But
like
yeah, just a little bit, but not
not
much.
exhausting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Let me
I
see.
wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be able to smash on the grippers if I did. In fact, not too long ago, I just did too much body weight work. Honestly, just too much upper body work. Too many push-ups that day, too much just work in general that day. And yeah, the next time I did grippers, which was a couple days later, I like could only close my 123 a single time from
Oh,
a mass monster set. And I've done like, I don't know, 10 singles in a workout and like 50 odd mini reps or whatever. So normally I could smash the 123 easy peasy, but that day, nope, the arms were not firing up.
yeah, that's
So
interesting.
I had to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah. Um, One question also wanted to ask is if you had access to any training equipment, uh, what would you use? Like if you maybe it's something you already own, but if you could just have any training equipment out there, would you get anything different?
Yeah, I'd get some smaller inches.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that'd be cool. Yeah, I like those. Because I have a concrete bell that's it's about 70 kilos, like right around 155. And I've lifted that several times. I've even lifted it with the left hand a couple times. Um, and I was getting a lot better at it before I busted it, so I need to fix it. But I think it'd be really cool to have the 70 kilo inch, um, and then maybe one in between that and the 78
Hmm, nice.
or whatever the big one is. Is it? I don't know. I know mine's 80 kilo. No, is that right? 80 kilos. That would be what?
Yeah, it's
176
like
pounds. Yeah,
175.
it's yeah. Mine's an
Yeah.
80 kilo. It's a little heavy. It's 177.6. Yeah, so it's right at
Hmm.
80 kilos exactly. They're 172, so they're 78 kilos. It'd be neat to have a 70 kilo and like a 74 kilo ish, something in there in between the two. That'd be nice to
Okay.
have. And
Like
just
half
having a
sizes.
70 kilo to start playing with it different ways would be nice
Yeah. Maybe
to eventually get
someday,
to transitions and stuff like that.
huh?
Yeah, yeah, and a lighter one to like start practicing the transitions and to get up
Yeah.
to where, get up to where I could lift the inch. That'd be cool.
I was gonna say someday people need to like standardize them, and then we'll have one, two, three, and then we'll have to make half
Yep.
sizes in between there.
Yeah, that's already starting to happen. There's a
Um,
lot of sizes of inches available now. It's cool.
yeah, I think that's basically all the questions I had too.
Right on.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for chatting with me today.
yeah, it's fun, man.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
I also wanted to ask, do you ever do like follow up interviews with people?
We've done a couple, but not really.
Okay.
We didn't even know we would do this many athletes. It just kind of started and it kind of snowballed into something bigger. So we're going to start doing more stuff this year. I'll probably get more people on and maybe do some follow ups. And I was thinking about even doing like open grip chats. We host like a
Oh,
Zoom party. We announce what day, and then people would just click in and come in and chat, and everybody could just chat with each other about training, about what's going on in grip.
that'd be pretty
Share
cool.
some ideas. I think that'd be really neat to do.
Yeah.
So that's something we're looking at doing. Yeah, I'm currently in the process of actually moving. The gym will be staying on the same street, but it'll be occupying like a couple of houses because my whole family actually owns like four houses on the same dead end street. So we can host some really cool events because we have a lot of space, a lot of options available. So we're thinking
Oh
about doing other
man.
events other than grip too, because we just have the fun space to do it. We have some giant tires here. We have some Atlas stones. We have Hercules hold. We have,
Oh,
we could do car and truck pulls on our street because we have the option because it's just a dead end street and we own all the houses. So
yeah. You should just convert it all into like a grip mecca and have conventions there.
yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff that we do here. So you'll see a lot of neat stuff happening again. Like our giant rock garden continues to grow. No one's claimed our potatoes fell stone. That one still has to be claimed, and we got a couple other big stones that are shoulder stones that people I think might claim this year. Some big monsters might come over and do that. So
Huh. That's
yeah,
pretty
lots of
cool.
fun stuff.
Yeah, I see that. I also wanted to shout out to Devin Hoover because you guys are pretty close, right?
Yeah, he's up in our area now. He's a freaking monster bender, man. He can
Yeah.
bend some serious steel. I want to get back into that with training with him. That would be fun to do. I definitely need to get back into it. I got pretty good at it doing it the wrong way. So I got pretty
Oh,
strong because I was completely bending the wrong way, and I was starting to do steel 5/16 cold rolled steel, so the same size as, or yeah, 5/16. Yeah, that's right. Quarter inches 4/16. So yeah, 5/16 cold rolled steel, same size as the red nail. I started doing that and getting it to kink, but doing it the wrong way. Like I was bending down and getting it to kink like that. And I actually got some tips from Josh Goldthroop. So shout out to him. He's actually the one that told me to bend out my elbows forward instead of down. And with that, I was able to smash the 5/16, and I was able to smash an old red that I had from an old just collection of nails that I had. So I smashed an old red that way in double wraps, and I smashed another old red in like 1.5 wraps, and I was trying to get down to lower wraps. Then I ran out of reds and ordered another, a couple more reds, and they were different. They were like drill rod. They were horrible.
hmm.
So I smashed one of those in double leather. That was the new red. You'll find if you look into it, people will talk about how the new reds felt like drill rod. They were absolutely just monstrous. The newest ones, this was a couple years ago. The ones from like a couple years ago were really stout. The newest ones are starting to feel like cold rolled steel again, which is great because that's how they should be. But I did one of the ones that was really heavy, one of the very, very hard reds, and tweaked something in my arm that messed me up for a little while. I was hurting in this area, like my connective tissue area, right in this area, my shoulder, like right in here. I was just messed up for a couple months. So I haven't picked up really a heavy bend since then.
Yeah. Yeah, I came close to getting like tendonitis once, and I was like, I'm gonna stop this.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Every
crazy.
every December I do Grip Miss, like the 12 days of Grip Miss,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
the first day is like based on one and so on. And I think I had some nails to bend maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and I tried to put it into Grip Miss. It was probably like an outtake because I might not have been able to finish it, but I all those Grip Miss days in a row were like getting me like really close to tendonitis.
yeah.
And I was like, it's winter. I should just take it easy sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I did that 100 days of inch dumbbell lifts with Adam Glass, and yeah, I needed to take a little break after the 100th day
Yeah.
for sure. That was
Yeah.
brutal.
And I think Jokabug had like a 40 days of like plate curls.
Yeah,
And I'd stuck with that for a little bit, but like if I do that for too long, I start feeling it in my like hand tendons here, like
yeah. I say
something in my
listen
middle
to your
finger.
body, when it starts screaming at you to slow down, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt something in your hands because I mean, they're awesome to make them really damn strong, but they're also really intricate tools. So we need to
Yeah.
keep them, useful. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Cool, man.
Well,
It's
right
good
on,
talking to
man.
you.
Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Yep.
All right. Well, have a good night.
Yep. See ya.